Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Riancho, and it's Monday, week 16. Time to make some win-loss picks for every game. Before we do that, we always look at last week's picks, take a look at the record, tell you where I was right and where I was wrong. In week 15, I go 9-6. I only had 2 games differently chosen than y'all. We actually agreed on pretty much everything across the board. So with that in mind, let's go through the record with y'all's picks as well. Here is every poll result that y'all have made, along with the winners and losers. There are 6 we both got wrong, and only 2 games we saw differently. That first game we saw differently was the Buccaneers hosting the Falcons. I did take Atlanta. I was right. Kirk Cousins does own the Buccaneers. So that one was a bit of a shocker. We both agreed Cincinnati would get the win. We were wrong on that. They looked demoralized. They had nothing in the tank. Lamar Jackson won pretty comfortably. We both took the Giants as well. Jackson Dart did not quite show up. The Commanders, after getting embarrassed, did bounce back. The Chicago Bears did beat Cleveland pretty comfortably. We were both right on that poll result. We also both took the Chargers over the Chiefs, and it really feels good to know that the Chargers are the ones that put the nail in the coffin. Sadly, the Chargers are not likely to win the division, but to beat the Chiefs twice. That feels dope. So y'all mostly agreed. Pretty close poll result here, but the majority did have it correct. However, if I just went with the majority, with the consensus on this, then I would have picked up a game. I bit myself in the ass. I just can't help myself. I need to make one strange pick every week. Obviously, that didn't work out in my favor, but it just felt so boring to take the Eagles. I believed that they could lose. Ultimately, that was the terrible choice. The Raiders literally put up a bagel. The Raiders got shut out. So I got humbled on this one. Apologies there. And it did cost me. I would like to pick up a game. Otherwise, I would have one more correct than y'all. But nope, we evened it up. Beyond this Eagles pick, though, we didn't disagree on a single game. The majority did take the side that I took as well. So we were right on Buffalo. This one was a very close poll. Only 52% took the Bills. The majority was correct. So was I. The Jaguars were also the right pick. We agreed on that, an 89 to 11% rate. The Texans, y'all took at 87%. That one also was correct. Panthers, however, did not win against the Saints. That's 0-2 this year against New Orleans. A big shocker, but we did not believe in New Orleans, and that was the wrong decision. Off the bye, Carolina shit the bed. We did agree for the most part on Green Bay. This poll was rather close, 56 to 44, but the majority was incorrect, just like I was. We underestimated Denver a little too much. In LA, the Rams did take care of business. Even though they lost Devontae Adams late in that game, they did win over Detroit. The Seahawks also won over the Colts. Not a single touchdown. They didn't cover the spread, but with 6 field goals, they beat Old Man Rivers. In San Francisco, that one did go as we expected. The Niners did cruise to victory. However, lastly, we got this one wrong. We took Dallas pretty overwhelmingly, 81-19, and that one wasn't even close. The Vikings really shocked us, 34-26, almost a 2-possession game when it was all said and done. Did not think the Cowboys would roll over. So that one was a shocker. Otherwise, we're in agreement again. We are both taking Pittsburgh tonight. So regardless of outcome, whether the Dolphins or the Steelers win, we will have the same record. Ideally, we're going 10-6. 10-6 is the bare minimum to feel confident about how this week went. So if it's 9-7, we both had a very mid, not impressive week, but at 10-6, it's fine. Sadly, I couldn't help myself. I took the Raiders, but I did take the Falcons, and we evened it up on the week. So not as entertaining as some other weeks. I like when we have more disagreements. Like the previous week, there were literally like 6 games that we disagreed on. That one was a lot more entertaining, in my opinion. But on the season, because I took the Chargers on Monday, I did actually pick up a game since the last time I recorded this video. So at the end of the day, we are only 2 games back in the win column. Y'all are 142, 77, and 4. I am 140, 82, and 1. So with 3 weeks left, if I can pick up 1 game on average, I will even the win percentage and also have 1 game up in the correct column. So that's my minimum in these last 3 weeks. That's my goal. However, I would love to tie it up or even just take the lead in week 16. Better to take it early than at the last second. So it is a photo finish here. I think we're going to have a very close final record when it's all said and done. But at the moment, y'all are in the lead. So if you don't want to lose it, make sure you answer the poll results. Before we move on to my picks, though, these are my picks against the spread in week 15. I go 3-3, and we were incorrect about Seattle. Pretty surprising they didn't even score one touchdown. The Raiders, though, that one was stupid. That one was pretty idiotic in hindsight. But the Packers, that one was a pick'em. We were just on the wrong side. And sadly, those three were wrong. But the Texans did cover. They won by 20 points, not just 10. So that one was a no-brainer. The Falcons did cover and win, not just against the spread, but money line was the right side. And then the Chargers money line always felt like the right decision. I didn't understand how this line went more in favor of the Chiefs over the course of the week. It opened at 4.5 and it closed at 5.5. And Vegas had it completely lopsided in the first place. So I guess Vegas still probably made money on that, but shocking that people believed in the Chiefs this much. So in the last 4 weeks, I do have a still pretty impressive record. 16-8 is a 67% win ratio. That's 2-1. And ideally, that's what I can keep up these remaining weeks. As long as I go 4-2 in these last 3 weeks, I'd be very happy with the outcome. But at the moment, we are only 2 games up above 500. We had a rough stretch back in weeks 3 and 4. We took a long time to crawl our way back. And after finally breaking even last week, I go 3-3 once again. So don't want to slide back. We want to maintain a positive outcome down the stretch. And this is my goal. 12-6 the last 3 weeks. That's what I'm trying to do. And if I finish 58-50, I would feel pretty happy about that. Obviously, if I do better, that's the ideal scenario. But at the worst, we can't fall back below 500. We have 18 picks left, 6 per week, 3 weeks in the regular season. And the record I am chasing in the final 3 weeks is 12-6. So that is the goal. That is what I'm trying to do. Anything less, I wouldn't consider a success. With that in mind, now it's time to make some win-loss picks for week 16. And now that we are getting down to the wire, it's becoming a little bit more obvious, and we're probably going to end up picking a lot of favorites, at least in the eyes of Vegas. Odds are we will agree. But there are some good matchups this week, some very close calls. No better example than Thursday Night Football at Seattle. The Rams are coming into town, and the Rams own Sam Darnold. Ultimately, that is the equation in this division. Darnold cannot get over the hump. Last year, he was a wreck against the Rams as well, and those 4 interceptions ultimately cost them that first time around a few weeks ago. But at the end of the day, that game was a field goal away from going the other way. If Jason Myers hadn't missed it from 60 yards out, we would have seen the Seahawks win that game. So it is a very close battle here. And the loss of Devontae Adams is going to be huge. I think with the short week, it's very unlikely he plays this week. And that would be a minor advantage to the Seahawks. But in a big game like this, I just don't trust Sam Darnold yet. I would like to, but at the beginning of the year, before it all took place, I did believe that the Rams would have the Seahawks number. I believed that McVay would beat Darnold both times. So that is what I'm going to stick with. I believe the Rams will still get the 1 seed. And if there is a team that I think is still the best in the NFC and the most likely to make the Super Bowl, it is still the LA Rams. But without Adams, it's not going to be easy. The fact that Blake Corum is really coming alive, though, I think is the cherry on top. The reason why I'm confident, if the run game is consistently this good, then their 1-2 punch is better than the 1-2 punch of Seattle. So give me Stafford over Darnold. Darnold just can't step up in these big moments. I don't trust him to beat the Rams defense. So I'll take the Rams. Close game, but the road team gets the sweep. On Saturday, we have an interesting doubleheader here. 2 division rivals that play each other very tough. In Washington, shockingly, the Commanders are actually competitive against the Eagles, but overall, the Eagles are still the clear favorites and definitely the pick I'm going to make. Last week was going to be a cute upset. If the Raiders actually got it done, then it would confirm that the Eagles are in just a generational slump and nothing can save them. But ultimately, even though they're on the verge of collapse, The last time it happened, coming off their first Super Bowl appearance with Hurts, they still made the playoffs. They were still a playoff team. They just were one and done. They lost to Tampa. So that is probably what I think will happen. I think with a win this week and a loss to Dallas, at least one more the rest of the way, that would guarantee them the division. And I think the earlier they lock it up, the more likely they are to check out. And then the more likely they are to not show up when it matters most in January in the playoffs. So that's what I'm predicting to happen. I think the Eagles will win this week. I think they will take care of business. It'll be a close game. The Commanders might even force overtime. However, I just don't think that the Commanders will have enough. The Commanders defense just isn't good enough. The Eagles win and more likely than not lock up a playoff berth with this victory. But the Commanders will make it interesting. I was tempted to take Washington, but I won't. Give me Jalen Hurts and the Eagles in this one. In Chicago, however, this one is going to be very close. Just like last time, it's going to come down to the final play. Although the Packers won by a touchdown, the game felt a bit closer than 7 actual points. If the final play had gone differently, instead of an interception, if Caleb Williams had thrown a touchdown, then they would have had the option to go for 2 and win the game. That game was very close to going at least into overtime, if not a win on the road for Chicago. So this game is in Chicago. That's an advantage to the Bears as well. The loss of Micah Parsons is also a big deal. And then there's also a chance that Christian Watson will not play in this one either. It sounds like he's okay. It sounds like he returned to the team quickly. He traveled with them back home, leaving Denver, and that is a good sign, but it's not a guarantee he will play. So if that's going to happen, I don't like their offense as much. Jaden Reed and then the grab bag of receivers that they have isn't the safest bet. Without Tucker Kraft and Watson, I would worry about Jordan Love here. But the Bears don't have as good of a defense as the Broncos, so I still trust the Packers to play well. However, they're kind of banged up in many spots, and Rome Odunze might return. Rome almost played this week. He was ruled out right before kickoff in the pregame warmup. So that foot injury is not ideal, but I think he'll be back. He didn't play in the Packers game the first time either. And if he's on the field, then Caleb, I would trust a little bit more. So this one's a true toss-up, but at the end of the day, the reason I'm going to take Chicago, I believe the Bears will win. If they lose, it's almost impossible for them to win the division. It's going to be really an uphill battle, and the remaining schedule is really, really tough. They have a Packers game, a Niners game, and a Lions game in these last 3 weeks. There's a scenario they go 1-2 and miss the playoffs. If they do not get at least one win in division, then I don't like their chances very much. So this game is very important. While it wouldn't seal their elimination, even with a win, they're not guaranteed a playoff berth. So they have to be on their P's and Q's. They have to be very sharp. I think they will. I trust Ben Johnson. And because of the loss of Micah Parsons, I think Caleb Williams will play a little better. As long as Rome comes back, I'll give it to Chicago, but this time around, it wouldn't shock me at all if it does go into overtime. But I'll take the home team. Give me Chicago. A very close game, but I believe the Bears will make the playoffs and they'll win this matchup. Give me Chicago at home. On Sunday, we have the Browns hosting Buffalo, and as much as I would like to see Shedeur pull off an upset, I'm definitely not going to take that. Shedeur is a fun story, but the Browns are ultimately one of the worst teams in the NFL. Their defense is starting to check out. It's about time. They really have nothing to play for. And at this stage of the game, I'm not going to bet against Josh Allen. There's no way they lose to Cleveland. If they do, that'd be an utter collapse. And it'd be really indicative that the Bills are a fraudulent contender. I wouldn't trust the Bills to make any noise in the playoffs if they lose to Cleveland. But I do expect them to win. I'm going to take the Bills. This one's a no-brainer. If anything, they're going to win by 3 touchdowns. Final score might be like 35-10. Wouldn't shock me at all if that's what happens. So definitely give me Josh Allen. That one's not even close. But in Dallas, a really important game. The Cowboys, though, after losing to the Vikings, have no room for error, and a loss would seal it. They have no chance to win the division if they lose. So maybe they really step up, but I haven't seen enough from George Pickens these last couple of weeks to really feel confident that the Cowboys offense can overcome. Their defense is still atrocious. They're giving up a ton of points to J.J. McCarthy. So what are they going to give up to Justin Herbert? Also, the Chargers really show up in primetime games. And anytime you play against Dallas, there's a lot of eyeballs on this matchup. It is a big marquee game. And even on the road, while it's buried in the early time window, I trust the Chargers to show up. They've been playing a little better in the 10 a.m. window, barring that Jaguars collapse. They've been a bit better, but I don't think this will be an easy win for either side. Ideally, Justin Herbert's hand injury is not a factor anymore. I wish Quentin Johnston would play. I didn't expect to say that when the season started, but that is the only reason why I think the Cowboys can win. But I don't think it's enough to convince me they will. The loss of Javonte Williams takes away their run game, and I don't trust Malik Davis enough. So Dak is going to be flustered here. That Jesse Minter defense is firing on all cylinders. It's a really tough matchup. And ultimately, turnovers will decide the game. Herbert will stay cleaner than Dak. I think there'll be one too many interceptions in this game. So I'm going to take the Chargers. CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson can't do it all alone. Pickens is not showing up enough. So the Cowboys season is not going to end with a playoff berth. They shit the bed too much back in the beginning of the year, and losing to the Vikings, I think, kind of sealed their fate. So the Chargers need to keep winning. They need to stave off the Bills. If they don't win the division, I think their only chances are to hold on to that 5 seed, and the Chargers, I believe, will. So give me the LA Chargers here on the road at Dallas. An important win for both teams, but I think the Chargers tough it out. In Tennessee, the Titans are hosting the Chiefs, and I'm going to take the Titans. I'm going to go outright and say it. The Chiefs are losing to Cam Ward. You really trust Gardner Minshew? The only time he was on the field, he threw an interception that sealed the loss. So I know the Titans don't have the defense that the Chargers do, but I think that game was so demoralizing, really just deflated the locker room, and I just don't see them bouncing back. If anything, this is going to help Chiefs fans. You need the loss. You need a better draft pick. I'm making the decision that really benefits your team in the long run. How does it feel, Chiefs fans, to have to pivot to rooting for a loss against the Titans? Boy, it feels good. The Chiefs season is over, but not sadly, in my opinion. I'm fucking happy about it. And let's just continue this Chiefs haterade. Let's double down. Chiefs are losing to the Titans. A nightmare season gets worse. The Titans at home are going to call upset. I expect Cam Ward to play well. Their offense has actually been a little better than you would think. They beat the Browns, so now they're at least thinking they can win. And if you just put on paper a Gardner Minshew team that has a sub 500 record is going against the number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, I don't think it's an automatic win for the Gardner Minshew team just because they're the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Titans. Andy Reid will lose yet again. Give me the Titans and a better draft pick for the Chiefs. I'm doing you a favor by calling this win for the Titans, but maybe I just hate that team so much. I'm so glad to see them lose. I'm happy to see them lose. I just wish that Mahomes was playing here and that they could actually lose to the Titans with Mahomes. That would be hilarious. That would be awesome. But Gardner Minshew, not going to get it done. The Titans will get the win. In Miami, the Dolphins are playing well, and honestly, I think there's a chance they win tonight. I did take the Steelers, and I'm going to stick with Pittsburgh, but I could definitely see the Dolphins actually find a way to win. And then against the Bengals, another team that's demoralized, I think they'll step up at home. Weather's definitely not a factor there. They've played well at home all year, and their defense is underrated. I don't trust the Bengals at all right now. I don't think T. Higgins will come back with nothing to play for. There's a chance they shut down Joe Burrow when you really think about it. And everyone in Miami is really fighting for their job. I still think the coach is going to get fired. I don't think Tua will extend his contract anytime soon, but the Dolphins are not giving up. The Dolphins are a feisty team. They've won, I believe, 5 in a row, and there's a chance they also beat the Steelers, which would keep them alive in the AFC. They're still in the hunt for a playoff berth. So while I wouldn't expect it to happen, it's still possible. They haven't given up yet. Give me the Dolphins to win here over the Bengals. At home, I would trust them a bit more than the road team. They've won consistently in Miami. In New Orleans, the Saints are playing well, and against the Jets, a bottom feeder team, I think they're going to continue to roll. Tyler Shuck is actually playing pretty well. Devin Neal also not too bad. The Saints aren't elite in any stretch, but they're also not terrible at anything either. So they're just mediocre enough to trust that they will beat bad teams like this. The Jets can't get anything right, and I don't feel confident that Tyrod Taylor will return to the lineup. So as long as it's Brady Cook under center, there is really no chance for me to pick the Jets. although they did score some points last week against the Jaguars, that was all in garbage time. There was never a chance for them to win. And the Saints will probably do the same. Easily take care of business. At home, the advantage is definitely in their favor. The Saints will roll over the Jets. That's a very easy pick, in my opinion. But the Giants are hosting the Vikings, and with Jackson Dart healthy, anything can happen. But the Vikings defense is really playing well, and now all of a sudden, JJ McCarthy is on a 2-game win streak. Didn't expect that at all. So the Vikings are gaining some confidence, and against a team like the Giants, it's not like you trust the Giants defense to show up. So I believe in Brian Flores. I think he's an interesting head coaching candidate next year, and he is going to try to set up his resume in a good light for the coaching cycle. There's some good jobs up for grabs, and I think Brian Flores is going to step up here with that defensive game plan. So I like the Vikings. I'm willing to trust them quite a bit here. I don't trust the Giants at all anymore. So they didn't beat the Commanders. The Commanders got demolished by the Vikings. By osmosis, it would make sense that the Vikings are much better than the Giants. But watch the Giants win. Watch it be a win-loss triangle where every team goes 1-1 against opposite franchises. So this one will be weird, but I'm going to trust JJ McCarthy a little bit more than Jackson Dart. If you tell me Jackson Dart is back in the blue tent and misses the second half, gets ruled out with another concussion, and misses the rest of the season, that wouldn't shock me either. So let's go with the Vikings here. This game has no consequence for playoff seeding, and I did live in Minneapolis just a couple of years ago. Let's stick with that bias. I've never lived in New York. I'm feeling good about the Vikings this week. Let's take the Vikings over the Giants. Skol Vikings! A meaningless win, but I guess something to boost JJ McCarthy's confidence down the stretch. In Carolina, a very interesting game, and if the Panthers lose, I looked at the stats on that, they would have to beat Seattle and beat Tampa, and then need the Buccaneers to lose to the Dolphins. I don't think all three of those things are going to happen, so their performance against the Saints was a bit demoralizing, definitely not encouraging. Getting swept by New Orleans is not a good sign, but the Panthers are a weird team. They show up when it really matters and then kind of shit the bed when it doesn't. But if they lose this week, I think their season is kind of over, and I doubt that's going to end up happening. So I will take Carolina. It's not like the Bucs are really giving you much confidence either. The Bucs defense is atrocious. Although they have extra time to rest, the Panthers are coming off a very recent bye. I think that extra 4 days of rest kind of gets neutralized in favor of Tampa. I think it no longer applies. This game is also in North Carolina, so I think in Charlotte, the home team will have the advantage. Carolina has also played very well at home this year as opposed to on the road. So both teams are an enigma, but what I do feel more confident in is predicting that week 18, when these two teams play off in Tampa Bay, that game, both teams are still alive, and it's going to decide the division winner. However, it's very unlikely that actually happens if the Bucs win this week. So do or die, Carolina with their season on the line does not shit the bed this time. They will beat the Buccaneers. The downward spiral for Todd Bowles' defense continues. In Denver, the Broncos are rolling. They're hosting the Jaguars, and two playoff teams that I think are both very legit. The addition of Jacoby Myers really cements the Jags offense as legit. They're running the ball at an elite rate right now, definitely better than what Green Bay was doing. And Denver, I still believe, is vulnerable, but at home, I would trust them to win. They're on such an elite win streak. They've beaten some very legit teams, and I just kind of feel like they're destined to be the 1 seed. And as long as they keep winning, they can even afford to bench their starters against the Chargers in the final game and have the 1 seed locked up. If they win this week and next, I believe they have the luxury of benching everyone week 18 and being just fine. So Denver, I think, will get the job done. While the Jags are capable of winning, I think Trevor Lawrence will come back down to earth in this matchup. That Broncos defense is deadly. If this game was in Jacksonville, I'd probably go the other way. I think it's a true pick'em, but I think similar to the Packers game, because it's in Denver in altitude, the Jags aren't used to it. I'll take the more experienced head coach with the better defense. In my opinion, the Broncos will get the job done. So give me Denver, a close game, but I'll take Bo Nix to make some magic happen in the fourth quarter, even if they're trailing the Broncos will find a way. In Arizona, the Cardinals are hosting the Falcons, and this will be a very interesting matchup because neither defense really shows up at all. However, both teams are eliminated, so there's not that much to play for, but both quarterbacks are also kind of playing out of their mind. Jacoby Brissett refuses to quit, and although the Cardinals offense is depleted, it is kind of neutral for both teams because London and Harrison Jr. are probably not going to suit up in this matchup. If only one of them does, then I think whichever team gets that receiver back will probably get the win. But here, I think the run game is just so much better for the Falcons. That's where I think they have the clear advantage. Neither defense will show up. Both offenses will play pretty well, but because the Falcons will be able to dominate time possession a bit more, that's where I think they'll have the edge over the Cardinals. The Cardinals can't run it to save their life. Bam Knight is trash, and I trust that the Falcons with Bijan will step up. If Kyle Pitts also has another game of his life, then that should be pretty dope. But fun game here. Doesn't matter for playoff seeding. I think the Falcons have the better roster, and I think Kirk Cousins is the better quarterback. So that's why I'm going to take the Falcons. I'll take Atlanta. But that one I could see going the opposite way. I still feel like the Cardinals are due for a win, but they're also decimated. There's a ton of injuries on defense. The Falcons don't have as bad of injury luck. So the Falcons, I think, have everything in their favor. Give me the Falcons over the Cardinals in Week 16. In Detroit, very important game for the Lions. It's kind of win or go home, but we have seen a trend. The Lions do not lose 2 in a row. But if there's one weakness that the Steelers defense has, it's stopping the run. And what's crazy about Jahmyr Gibbs is 1 week he'll score 3 touchdowns, the next he'll score 0. And if that trend continues like I think it will, then he's going to dominate against Pittsburgh. Gibbs will go off. The Lions, I think, are going to drop 40 plus. And the Steelers, I don't think that have the offense to keep up with them. Maybe Aaron Rodgers has a good game, but ultimately I don't think he can throw for like 5 touchdown passes and compete with Jahmyr Gibbs popping off. So the Steelers on the road are not the same team. They get a short week of rest. They play Monday tonight, and I don't think they'll be available at full strength on the road at Detroit. The Lions will definitely win. Lions have to have any shot at the playoffs. The Lions get the job done. They win over Pittsburgh. In Houston, the Texans are hosting Las Vegas, and I'm definitely not going to make the idiotic decision like I did last week. The Raiders are absolutely going to lose. The Raiders are poised to get shut out here. The Texans defense is better than the Eagles. So if they scored 0 on Philadelphia with Kenny Pickett, they're going to do it again against Houston. The Texans will automatically win. They're favored by more than 2 touchdowns, and they probably only need like 17 points to cover this week. 100% give me the Texans. That one is obvious. In Baltimore, though, a very fun game that can go either way. Major playoff implications here. And if the Patriots have any shot at the 1 seed, they need the win this week. They have to keep up with Denver. That loss to the Bills was costly. So this is really important for the Patriots, who just had a recent bye, and maybe they did look ahead to this game a little bit. But I really doubt it. I'm sure that Bills game was way more important, and the way that they lost kind of makes me re-question how legit the Patriots are, because their schedule was so easy. While they did beat the Bills back in week 5, they only beat them by a field goal, and then the Bills had an utter collapse with a ton of turnovers. That's kind of hard to repeat. As we saw last week, the Bills found a way to win, even down by, 21 points. The Bills were very, very impressive in the second half. So the Patriots looked flustered on offense once the Bills started to blitz them like crazy. And the way that they kept themselves in the game was a house call, not just once, but twice by Trevion Henderson. Odds are that's not going to repeat very often. So if that's what they need to beat the Ravens, I'd be worried. And last week did give me some confidence that maybe the Ravens offense is going to get right. I still believe the Ravens are a Super Bowl contender, but it requires Lamar Jackson to be on his best behavior. If he looks demoralized like he did a few weeks ago, then the Ravens will collapse yet again. But as long as he's okay, they can beat anyone. And the Patriots, I think, are a bit fraudulent in terms of their record. It's not that convincing that they're actually that much better than everyone else in their conference. They just had a really good schedule, and they made the most of it. So this is a winnable game for both teams, but the Ravens, I think, will get the job done. I believe they can close the year strong and make a good playoff push, I still think the Ravens have a shot at coming out of the AFC. But if they lose this game, that would be definitely not what I would predict. I still believe it can happen. And with that in mind, I will take Baltimore this week. Their win over Cincy was impressive. I didn't expect that, and I'm willing to believe in them again. The Ravens are my pick in this game. Close one, but I'll take Lamar Jackson over Drake May. The final game of the week is on Monday. The Colts are hosting San Francisco, and despite holding serve with the Seahawks, actually almost winning that game, they lost because they let the Seahawks kick 6 field goals. To lose that way, not letting them score a touchdown, but still losing, that is really indicative of how bad they are. I don't think Rivers will find a way to beat Brock Purdy and the Niners. Robert Saleh's defense has been really good, and Kyle Shanahan is arguably the coach of the year. Really consistent offensive production, regardless of who's on the field. So the Niners are going to do what they always do, at least 30 points on offense. This game has no weather concerns at all, and that's the only way I would envision the Colts have a chance to beat Brock Purdy in bad weather. But it's in a dome. That's not going to be a factor. I don't trust Jonathan Taylor against San Francisco enough to pick the Colts. Rivers, it's a fun story, but it's just not enough. They're going to lose. The Niners will win. So Niners still have a chance to miss the playoffs. They also have a chance to win the division, and I think they're going to give themselves more of a chance to be the 1 seed as opposed to miss the playoffs entirely. They will win. This game is important. So a win for the Niners. These are my picks in week 16. I'm taking mostly home teams. However, a few road teams can get the job done. On Thursday, we're taking the Rams at Seattle. Darnold just can't beat that Rams defense. There'll be too many sacks and turnovers for the Seahawks to win. In Washington, I was tempted to take the Commanders, but the Eagles will take care of business. They'll lock up the division with a win this week. In Chicago, the Bears keep their season alive. If they lose this game, there's a high chance they miss the playoffs. That's not going to happen. Give me the Bears. Without Micah Parsons, the Packers won't be as dominant as they were 2 weeks ago. In Cleveland, the Browns don't have a shot. The Bills will absolutely blow them out. And then in Dallas, they'll play well to start the game, but the Jesse Minter defense will be too much. The Chargers will finish the Cowboys season. They get the win on the road in Dallas. In Tennessee, a win they've been waiting for all year long. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and Gardner Minshew helps the Chiefs lock up the best draft pick possible. The Chiefs might not win again this season. The Dolphins hosting the Bengals have a lot more to play for than Cincinnati does, and they are much more confident at home. They always step up. Give me the Dolphins over the Bengals. In New Orleans, the Saints will clamp down. The Jets have no shot. The Saints cruise to victory. And then in New Jersey, the Giants are hosting the Vikings, and I'm trusting the Brian Flores defense a lot more than the Giants. Give me the Vikings over New York. In Carolina, the Panthers have to win this game to have any chance, in my opinion. They're not beating Seattle next week. If they lose to Tampa, their season's over. Give me the Panthers to keep it alive over the Buccaneers. In Denver, the Broncos beat the Jaguars. They want that 1 seed, and I believe they're going to get it. In Arizona, the Cardinals defense is absolutely terrible. The Falcons, now that they're eliminated, are actually going to try to win. The Falcons beat Arizona. In Detroit, the Lions don't lose 2 in a row. They will run all over Pittsburgh. The Steelers have no shot. In Houston, the Texans are going to completely blow out the Raiders. Probably the second shutout loss with no points in a row. In Baltimore, the Ravens will find a way. They get their mojo back, and the Patriots look even more fraudulent than they did last week. In Indianapolis, it's a fun story, but it's the end of the road. The Colts lose to the Niners. So those are my picks. I believe most of the playoff teams that we already have at the moment are going to stay as playoff teams. I don't think there's too many teams that will lose the spot. They already have. But on top of that, I also give you 6 picks against the spread every week. And at this stage of the game, Vegas knows pretty accurately who's more likely to win. At this point of the year, unless we have a really close matchup between 2 playoff teams or 2 bottom feeders, then it's usually pretty obvious who's going to win. So I do think picking favorites is more likely the side at this stage of the year. It's a little more clear who is better than the other team. So I am going to take mostly favorites this week. I think the Texans aren't favored enough here. Only 14.5 points. I think it should be 20 points, to be honest with you. Last week was so bad by the Raiders. They have no chance at all. So the Texans have the best defense in the NFL. The Raiders have a garbage offense. Perfect storm here. Should be a 20 to 30 point victory. I could see a final score of 40-3. In Detroit, I'm surprised the line isn't over 10 points either. The Lions, I think, will easily beat the Steelers. The Steelers don't have the offense to keep up with Detroit, and the Steelers can't stop the run. Gibbs will bounce back heavy. This is a no-brainer in my opinion. Only 7 points. This feels like a gift, because at the worst, it's a push. I don't think the Lions lose by less than a touchdown. At worst, we'll push and cover the spread. So Lions -7, heavy favorites, but I think that's a gift in my opinion. And then the Niners, I think, should be favored by more than a touchdown as well. -5.5, that's a bit of a dead number. The favorite will cover. So I will take the Niners. In a game like this, I'm definitely trusting Kyle Shanahan. I don't think the Colts are going to find a way to force nothing but field goals like they did last week. So the Colts, I don't think, can drop more than 23 points. The Niners, I don't think, are scoring less than 30, and that's a clear advantage for the favorite. Give me the Niners -5.5. I predict that this line will go up by the end of the week. In New Orleans, I'm surprised this line is also under a touchdown. The Saints are much better than the Jets. So this one is a clear pick the favorite. The Saints at home against Brady Cook. Garrett Wilson's not coming to the rescue. The Saints will win probably by a touchdown. So a lot of favorites here. I like all 4 of these teams, but I'm not taking strictly favorites this week. I'm also taking a couple underdogs. I was tempted to offer up the Panthers +3, but I'm going to avoid that game entirely. That one's a weird one. So let's take my hometown favorite. The Chargers are underdogs on the road, and I'm not really understanding this line. I think Vegas doesn't quite understand how good the Chargers are, because last week they were 5.5 point dogs to the Chiefs, and that made no sense at all. So against the Cowboys, I think they'll win, and in a pick'em, give me the underdog all day here. I think they'll win outright, not just by like 2 or 3 points. I think they can win by a full touchdown. I think the Cowboys might collapse. That Chargers defense is elite, but this will be close. Definitely a bit worried, but I'll take the Chargers and the points. Lastly, though, I'm going to predict that the Titans win straight up. So money line is also tempting, but getting the hook, getting +3.5, I think we can avoid a push here, and I just don't trust Gardner Minshew at all. If you've watched the Titans, their offense is playing a bit better, while their defense sucks. To tell me that you trust the Gardner Minshew Chiefs to actually show up, I wouldn't bet on it, and I don't think that the Titans will give up here. They're going to play out of their minds, and I think they can get out to an early lead and cover at the very least. Give me the Titans to win, and +3.5. I feel good about that. So mostly favorites. The Texans is 14.5 point favorites. That one's a little tricky, but against Las Vegas, I think it'll work out. Against the Steelers, this line should be double. This one should be a 14-point line, if you ask me. So Lions, I think, are a lock. The Niners, I think, are also a very safe bet, but the Colts did burn me last week. I took the Seahawks to cover, and betting against Indianapolis maybe is the wrong choice, but I'm trusting Robert Saleh to shut down Rivers. I think Brock Purdy will play well. We're also taking the Saints. They've been good against the spread as of late. I don't think Vegas has quite come around yet. Even against the Jets, only 4.5 feels low. So that one I think will work out, feels a bit safe. The Chargers, maybe you're more confident in Dallas than I am, but to lose to the Vikings, that gives me a lot of confidence that the Chargers should actually be favored. Why they're underdogs, not quite sure at all. But the Titans as underdogs, a little bit of just drinking the haterade and wanting to have fun, but ultimately I love betting against the Chiefs. It has worked out quite often this year. So those are my picks. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And I'll see you next time. I'm Adam Riancho, and thanks for watching. Nice and blunt.